So this is going to be a general viability list for Arena in Wrath. Going to take a look at all of the specs and just see where they sit on this ladder. Now all of these specs, basically, with the exception of Blood DK probably, have a place somewhere, but we're going to talk about if you just want to do well in Wrath Arena and you're trying to pick what class or what spec you're playing, this list is for that. Alright, we'll get started with melee DPS. So starting us off is going to be, looks like Combat Rogue. Combat Rogue's weak. You can definitely go Combat Rogue and kill somebody in a killing spree with 0 Resilience Worn, but outside of that kind of gimmicky play, I just don't really see it. So I'm going to put it in like low D, mid D, whatever. Okay, we've got, looks like Beast Mastery. This is definitely viable, and I think it's actually pretty good in the first season, especially when damage is so high. So I'd probably put it around B, maybe A. I'll go high B. Arms Warrior is, well, it's great. So I'm gonna put that up in like, I don't know, high A, low S. In the first season of the expansion, it's not nearly as good as it will be in the last season of the expansion. It's mostly because Warrior is the most PvE gear dependent spec or class in the game, in my opinion. So in the first season, I think they're a bit weaker. I'm going to put them at high A. Okay, we've got Subtlety Rogue. I'm going to put them at probably mid S. Yeah, they're just really good in the first season in particular. Unholy DK, right next to Subtlety Rogue, I'd say. They're great. This looks like what? Survival Hunter? Yeah. No. I'd put them low C or something. Just not really a thing. I'll go high D, whatever. Alright, Ret Paladin. Outstanding in the first season. I think anything with immunities that puts out damage like a Ret Pally does, especially with utility such as the ability to remove stuns with freedom and cross dispelling and off heals with Art of War. Like, it's just a really good spec. So I'll put it up here. I'll go low S. Okay. All right. Let's see. This looks to be what? Fury Warrior. It's not good. It's not good. I don't know. Low D or even high E, like, it's just really kind of like E to me is you just can't make it work, period. So I don't know if it fits into that, but it definitely doesn't belong anywhere above D. So I'm going to put it next to Combat Rogue. Marks Hunter, mid A. Yeah. Okay. Mutilate Rogue. Let's see, Assassination. This is going to be good. This is a weird one, though, because essentially the way that this spec is built is your primary, I don't know, what you bring to the party is just really high damage, and it doesn't really matter on what. You can sit on a warrior that's wearing plate, or you can sit on a clothy, and you're going to do really high damage and apply a Mortal Strike effect with Wounding Poison. So I think it's good, but it's really immobile. It's like the most kiteable spec. So where it used to be better because people were worse at kiting mechanically, I don't think it's as good anymore. But rogues are also crazy in the first season. I'm going to go low A. Like, don't get me wrong. Mutilate RLS is going to be good. Like, people are going to run it. It was popular back when. It'll still be good. I just think it's so kiteable. Once people know how to kite it, it's pretty shut down. Enhancement is going to be better in Season 1 than it will be any other time in the expansion, I think. And I definitely think it's good. So I'll probably put it somewhere in here. Probably right next to Ret. Yeah, good spec. Alright, what is this? This is Preg Paladin. Preg Paladin is somewhere next to Ret Paladin. They're pretty interchangeable, I would say. Honestly, I don't know a whole lot about the difference. Like, obviously, one has a silence with the shield thing, and the other has repentance, and, you know, there's differences. But one thing I have found is that Preg Paladins, when paired with a Resto Shaman and 2s, are really scary. Like, they can kill opposing paladins and plate users really easily. So I guess I'd put them like here. I don't know. I feel like I don't know enough to talk about this one, but that's where I put it. Prot Warriors, in the first season, they're just not as good because you don't have as much PvE gear, but they're still really good. The way that you counter prot warriors is because they have low resilience, you basically just have to kill them, but because they have so much utility, you need to have really good tracking of their abilities, so things like spell reflect and stun DRs and that kind of stuff. So I think it's going to be one of those things that does really well at lower MMRs and then gets shut down decently well at higher MMRs. But it all depends on how the gear shapes up. I'll put it at low A, I'll put it at high B probably. Oh, it's good, but, you know. Feral. Like Enhance, this is going to be another one of those that is better in the first season than later in the expansion. Just because damage will be higher in the early stages. Especially considering mana is going to be bad in the first season. Ferals can throw an Enervate on their healer, which is really strong. Hunter Feral, Priest is great. There's a couple other Feral cons I could see as being great, and I almost feel like Feral is a little bit unexplored. I don't know why. I think maybe because it's mechanically kind of difficult to play, and you almost have to play it like Dance Rogue, you know, you kind of go in and out and in and out. But yeah, it's up there. I think they're really good. I do think it gets kind of shut down by resilience. Like as soon as people have a ton of resilience, it's not going to be nearly as good. But I think at the start, like in the first month of the expansion, Ferals are going to be like way up here, but then they'll fall off over time. Plus, people are way better at dispelling Predator's Swiftness, which is the feral instant clone or heal thing. And everybody's going to have add-ons all set up. And as soon as everybody has their command center, mechanics like that just kind of get shut down much better than they used to. Not to say it's bad, but just not as good as when people aren't seeing these things. So I'm going to put that at... I don't know. Burst is so high. I'm so tempted to put it way up here, but I'm going to put it next to these. There we go. Blood Decay. Blood Decay is the only spec that belongs in like way down here. I think I don't know. I've just not seen it. Dancing Rune Weapon or whatever. I just never see it. It's just not a thing. Somebody should make this work and tell me I'm an idiot. I would love to see it. Frost Decay is much better. Not as good as Unholy, but certainly good. I'd put it at about B, maybe even A. Frost Decays don't have all the utility that Unholy has. Right? It doesn't have AMZ and whatnot, but it does have really high burst on a single target. Like this can kill pets or plate users with Frost Strike really quickly. I think people are going to be surprised as to what level of burst Frost DKs can put out. And Hunger and Cold is nothing to scoff at. Like an AoE Repentance on a 45-second cooldown is, really scary. So, yeah, I put that probably B. All right, getting into the casters here. Elemental Shaman. This is the best DPS spec in the game. Yeah, you have a root that you can use. It's a 5-second root on a 10.5-second cooldown. That root does not share DR with any other roots in the game, and it's an AoE root off of Earthbind Totem. You are in basically a bark skin effect while in the effects of stun, which, if you know anything about Arena, you are often going to be dying in a stun. So it's exactly when you would love an effect like that. Their burst is way up there. It's one of the best. Their mana efficiency is great. They've got a knockback. They're in melee, so they do pretty well against melee in that way. They're just so well-rounded, and they bring Bloodlust and an offensive purge. It just really, it's the best spec in the game, outside of, if you're not counting healers. Okay, Frost. Frost is good, man. I don't know. People are like saying how Frost won't be as good in Wrath as it was in TBC, and I'm hearing all this debate about how Frost is going to perform in Wrath, partially because people don't know what Ice Lance is going to be. If you recall in TBC, Classic specifically, Ice Lance was, I don't know, arguably busted. People think Nova just never broke, right? So if Nova doesn't break, yeah, Ice Lance is really good. So we'll see. I don't know what Frost Nova is going to be like. I assume it's going to be the same, and if it's the same, Frost Mages are just great. Give them Deep Freeze and all that kind of stuff. They're amazing. They might run into mana troubles early on, and I think one of their strengths in the later stages of the expansion was that they were going to be with double Solace and stuff, but that's not going to be a thing, so we'll see. But yeah, Frost Mages, way up here. I'd put it up at A, or S rather. I'll put it here. Okay, Arcane Mage. Not great. Probably put it C tier. Mages just have utility across the board, and so they're, all the specs I think are viable. But Arcane is the worst of the three, in my opinion. It's just not good. Not great, anyway. Okay, Destro. Destro is way up here, probably tier S. You've got Shadow Fury, which is an AoE stun on a 20-second cooldown. one of the best single abilities in the game, I would say, Shadow Fury. Maybe it is the best ability in the game. Huh. Like, what single ability has more impact on a game? Probably like Dispel Magic or something. But yeah, it's really, really strong. And their burst is unmatched, I think, as far as the viable specs go. Yeah, Destro's way up there. Okay, Affliction. Affliction, I would say, especially in the first season, is going to be a little bit worse than Destro, but still way up here. I probably put it right around Arms Warrior here at high A. Now, it's hard for me to kind of judge this. Like, I play Warlock, and so like I have a good idea of what the 2 specs are, the 3 specs are, and how they do, but I don't know what it's hard to say what I'm judging here. Am I judging a spec's maximum potential when played at the very best ability in a tournament setting, or am I judging it based off of just like throw a random an arbitrary player into any rating in Arena and how would they do? I think I'm more leaning towards the latter, just an arbitrary player. I don't know their skill set. I don't know, I just put them onto this build and throw them into Arena. Which spec is going to be better? And I would say Destro is. Okay, Shadow. Shadow is really hard to answer because I don't know how they're going to do on mana. I want to put them at around A because mana is going to be a huge concern. If they had double Solace like they had in actual Wrath in the later seasons, they'd be way up here, but they won't. So I'm going to put them here right now. Actually here. Yeah. Boomkin. Boomkin is pretty bad. Well, it's okay. It's like probably around Arcane Mage or something like that. It's just like, I used to think it was like the worst spec in the game, but I've seen Blood DK. So, I don't know. It's, when paired with like a Warlock and a Shaman, you're going to do really well as Boomkin. But again, arbitrary player, arbitrary comp. It's just, it's just, I'll put a high C, maybe low B. Probably low B in the first season because you have Starfall and damage is high. It's okay. Fire Mage. I put it probably similar to Boomkin here. It's better than Arcane. I'd probably put it better than Boomkin, or around there anyway. I'll put it low B. The problem that I run into with Fire is it's hard to land kills as Fire. You put out a ton of spread pressure with Living Bomb on multiple targets. You have a lot of utility with Dragon's Breath and Blast Wave knockback. But your survivability is mediocre, and you don't have much like stun that target and kill it potential like you would with, say, Frost or Destro or something. And ultimately that's how you land kills. So you need something else to bring that to the party. I'll go here. Demonology. Demo's really fun. So Demo, you get to do more burst, I think, than just about anything. I said Destro is basically unmatched on burst potential, but the numbers you will see on Demo, the numbers themselves are the highest. Yeah, it's just crazy the numbers that you'll see on Demo. But numbers aren't everything. Not to mention the vast majority of what you're going to fight on the ladder is going to be a lot of, well, you'll fight Paladins constantly, and Trinity Evil just destroys the spec. As Demo, when I would go in against good players, if they had a Paladin, the game would go something like, okay, I'd get Hodged or Blind or something like that early in the game. Let's say I pop my Demon form, which is my big cooldown. If I get Hodged, I can't eat that. So either I get Dispelled or I have to Trinket it. And if I can't get Dispelled, that's my Trinket, and then I'm eating a full Trinity Evil. That's really that. So, I mean, there are ways to play around it, kind of, but then you can just get banished or whatever. It's just, it has its weak points when it comes to CC susceptibility. But the AoE potential and the actual numbers, oh, you just melt people. People group up and you run into them in Demo form. Oh, it's so satisfying. So I'll put it in high C here. All right, you're going to look at this and go, what the heck is this? That's for Art of War. That's not an actual spec. And this is what I'm using for Preg. Now, Preg is a newer build. It was invented, I think, in like 2020 or something like that. It's called Preg because the person who came up with the spec is named Preg. I don't know why he's named Preg, but anyway, that's why we call it Preg. It is a spec that basically relies on doing melee damage, but having a good amount of healing due to Art of War and having your strength convert into, or rather, I think it's your attack power convert into healing power. So it's one of the only specs, if not the only spec, that I would say is a true hybrid in the sense that you are doing about half damage, half healing. You look at the other hybrids such as Shadow and Ellie, really they're DPS, but they have the ability to off-heal. This one, like, you need both. Preg is going to heal and it's going to do damage, and that's kind of cool. So anyway, it's really hard to judge where this sits because it's so new and I haven't really had a chance to see what it will be like. I'm thinking it's somewhere in here. Its strengths are essentially it's plate, so you have a hard time killing it. It has immunities, which is great in the first season, and it doesn't go or it's really hard to make it go So if you had like a survivable twos partner, let's say, to play with a Preg, one that can doesn't just get one shot, with a Preg Pally, you could just go forever. You just never die. I could see like Enhanced Preg being great. Well, I think that is a comp. That is a thing, I'm pretty sure. Enhanced Preg is great. So, but in threes, it's not going to be as good as in twos, I would think. I'm going to put this somewhere in B. Holy Priest is bad. You would look at the tree, and you would think it's pretty good. Because I think on paper it has talents which you go, oh my god, that's really strong. But it just never makes it. And I couldn't really tell you exactly why. Maybe Lightwell is just too bad. I don't know. It just never does as well as you'd hope. So I'm going to put it down here. Probably probably D. Just not good. I don't know. I wish it were better. Holy Pally. Arguably the best healer. Getting into the healers here, you'll notice that in Wrath, unlike TBC, the healer balance I think is much better. All of the healers are very viable. They're all quite good. In TBC, I think the healers were viable, but the weaker of them only had a few comps, where I think in Wrath, if you play any of these healers, you're going to have multiple comps that you can play, and you're going to be capable of getting rank 1 in any bracket. And I think that's neat. So Holy Pally, I think, is probably the best of them, especially in the first season. I'm going to put it up at tier S. It's great. This Priest, this is probably the second best healer. Now, when I say second best, third best, fourth best on these healers, the difference is not great. They're all really good. So I'll probably put this right here. Yeah, here. The reason I'm putting Holy Pally above Disc Priest is simply because Holy Pallies will not just get cleaved down. I think TSG, Turbo Cleave, Beast Cleave, those kinds of things are going to be popular. A Disc Priest is very susceptible to those types of comps. Now, a good Disc Priest is going to bring a team member that's going to offset their weaknesses, right? A Disc Priest is probably going to play with like an Elemental Shaman and a Ret Pally or something. Well, I don't know if that's a comp, but you know what I mean. Like, they're going to bring the utility that offsets their weaknesses, so they'll live to cleave. But yeah, they do die to cleave. So Resto Druid, I'm probably putting around tier A. Just no Dispel is the big thing, but they are good. And Resto Shaman, I'm putting right next to Resto Druid. It brings Bloodlust and Offensive Purge, but it does die to cleave, doesn't have a defensive Dispel. Still very viable, very good. But I think this is ultimately where I land. I don't know. We'll see. I'm like re-looking at my list and I can move these things, an inch here, there. I'm not sure, but yeah, there's the list.